Can I ask my question first?
Oh, okay, go
Why
ahead.
are you dressed for Halloween?
My wife dresses me sometimes, you know.
Okay.
Basically, first one, what would you consider your most shining moment as an assemblyman? Thing you're most proud of?
Well, I think the things that I'm most proud of go on a list from Park and the success in redeveloping the airbase, which was a long project, to something you probably would never notice and you won't find on a bronze plaque. And that's the safety railing on the sidewalks on the Osable Chasm Bridge, where a kid was killed, just fell off the back of the sidewalk into the path of an oncoming car back in 1986. And the parents came to me and said, you know, can't we put something up here? And the DOT said, oh, it can't be done because snow plowing and all that, and we persisted. And the DOT changed their minds, and every time I drive across that bridge, I think of that poor kid and the lives that may have been saved since then because no job was too little, and we didn't give up.
Is there a moment or moments or still undone moments, something that you didn't get accomplished that you really were hoping to?
Well, I hope to finish the Northway phone situation before the end of this year. So let's leave that on the probably will get done. It's certainly on its way. And right now, the biggest concern that everybody has is property taxes. We worked last year to put together the Save Our Homes Act, and it's prepared, it's put out to the people in the legislature. Both Republican candidates for governor have picked it up as something they want to advocate. I think that issue, property tax relief for all New Yorkers, is going to be resolved in this year's election campaign. So I look forward to working for the rest of the year for the election of Bill Weld as governor, pushing that agenda, and even though I will not be in office by the end of the year, I'm still hopeful that I can play a part in succeeding in that effort as well.
Actually, I did have one other question.
That's
He's
right.
got a half smile.
You can
I keep getting these nasty,
I did a half smile there.
keep getting these really strange expressions. These cameras.
You can ask as many questions as
Those
you want.
cameras. Thanks.
Oh,
Oh,
it's the
jeez.
parole
What
job.
are you, move again?
No, you're like,
You got one of those, huh?
Don't blame the camera.
there we go.
All right.
If the parole
Keep
job-
those eyes open, man.
Sorry
parole
about
job
that.
falls through for whatever reason, what would your future? What do you think your future would be then? What might you look forward to doing?
Well, it's not going to fall.
Well, I know, but
Well, you might as well ask, if I got hit by a truck next week. Life is full of unexpected turns in the road, and we all need to be prepared to meet them head on, overcome them, and whatever. I have recently gotten my real estate sales license, and I've begun an affiliation with a firm in the area to do that and I will continue to do that. So I'm looking forward to having a little time to do private sector work as well, some writing, political consulting, and other things. But the parole board job is a every week, year-round job of great importance. I think people don't look at the parole board very often as one of the legs on the stool of criminal justice. The police apprehend, the district attorneys and the courts convict, the correctional system keeps inmates safely away from the rest of the people, and the parole board is the final line of defense for those inmates who believe they should be released early and the state believes they should not. So as I said to Sheriff Favreau yesterday, Sheriff, you'll be keeping them in, and I'll be right there watching over the early release program, and I think that's why I think it's important that with my experience in passing criminal justice legislation, in working with our correctional facilities in this area, and working with our fine parole officers in this area, I've come to know and appreciate the importance of the parole board and the parole system as an integral part of keeping New Yorkers safe.
Well, I came in a little bit
Yeah,
late.
Ducky
because-
wanted to start because he only had 2 questions.
Ah,
But I wound up
And
with
then he
three.
got three.
yeah,
Threw in a
and then he
bonus.
got 4.
No, I
He got
the rest
kind
of
of
yours
like
didn't.
me, yeah.
Unless you say something that sparks another question.
Well, I'll start from scratch. What led to your decision to retire from the assembly?
Well, not to be flip, but what led to it was a call from the governor asking me to serve on the parole board. And the 20 years is a long time. It's the longest serving assembly member in the history of Clinton County. I've accomplished just about everything I set out to do in 1986, including tax cuts, particularly income tax cuts, the STAR program, an energy policy. Look at us now building wind farms all over the North Country because we've finally gotten to alternative energy, a cleaner environment, reform of the Adirondack Park Agency, and I think it's time. It's just the right time to get fresh perspectives and recharge my batteries in another field of public service. You know, I've been in this business since I was 10 years old in one way or another, as a volunteer, as a local elected official. Even when I was in the radio and television news, in a sense I was in the same business because we covered the same events, we listened to the same issues, we dealt with them, and this is just another face of that. So public service is real important to me, and continuing in it in this new capacity is equally important.
When Janet Dupree entered the race, though, you were, ready for a race against her, and you seemed to be, running against her up until this very point in time.
Well, I still, I'm a very competitive person. I've been elected 19 times, local and state office. I've never lost an election, and I wouldn't have lost this one, in my opinion. I'm a very competitive person, and my competitive juices wanted to keep on going. But the opportunity, as my mother-in-law used to say when I was just a kid growing up in the neighborhood, stopping by her house, take the cookies when they're passed. And this is an opportunity that we felt, my family felt, that was really the right thing at the right time. And so another one of my friends said, I know your ego wants to continue in this race and win the race, but don't let your ego get in the way of doing the right thing for your family.
What's your role in the county Republican Party going to be from here, once you leave the assembly?
As you know, I'm a state committee member, and I'll be going to the state convention. I'll be campaigning for and voting for Bill Weld for governor. And when I take office on the parole board, I'll have to resign as a party officer as well. So my formal role will end at that time. But as a past county chairman for 7 years, as a state committeeman, as a former county committeeman, I'll never walk away from the Republican Party. I'll serve in whatever way I can. I'll go to events, I'll make contributions to worthy candidates, and I'll work as hard as I can to get them elected. This year, it's Bill Weld at the top of my list of candidates I'm working for, and I really hope we can win.
What intrigued you about the parole board? If the governor had offered you another position, would you have refused it?
Well, in fact, I did turn down one other offer from the governor and another offer that was tendered last summer. At one point, when Don Kasperzak resigned as executive director of the Hudson, Fulton, Clinton, no, Hudson, the Champlain Quadricentennial Commission. When Donnie Kasperzak resigned as executive director of the Quadricentennial Commission, several people put my name forward for that. I didn't think that was a right fit. It wasn't something that I felt I could do any more as executive director than I was as a volunteer member of the commission, so I didn't take that suggestion. And when I, in January, governor's office offered me the chairman of Commission on Corrections, and I didn't think that was a right fit as well. But this makes more sense.
Is the parole, how long term is the parole board?
6 years.
6 years?
There's been some, I don't know how to phrase it, some debate, some chaos, not really chaos, but you know, some uproar and stuff in the local Republican Party and stuff. Did that lead to your decision at all?
You take the totality of what's going on, the environment you're living in, the opportunities you have to serve. I don't think that entered into it at all. This is a decision that was made with a view toward how I can continue to serve the public and what's right for me and my family. And all the considerations were secondary. And third.
It's a 6-year term.
Yeah.
Does, and you did mention you've got your real estate license and things like that. Would you ever step back into politics?
Never say never. I love public office. I think that, and I like campaigning. This opportunity to work in the gubernatorial campaign, I think is going to go a long way toward fulfilling that part of my likes, dislikes, and so forth. I'm looking forward to helping Governor Weld and doing whatever I can on the statewide level. Who knows? I'm not running for mayor, I'll tell you that. Let's dispel that rumor right away.
Or city manager.
Part-time mayor.
Neither one. Neither one. You know, you asked a question, now I'm going to have to put my City of Plattsburgh resident hat on. I think it's time. This was an idea that I promoted and the Republican Party promoted in the 1989 mayoral election. If you'll remember, our candidate and our platform were running with the express intention that if elected, we would have put a charter amendment before the people and go on to a city manager. We did have the Charter Commission created as a result, and the Charter Commission, and in the final analysis, decided not to go the city manager route. You may remember, Ducky, when Mayor Rabideau, then candidate Rabideau, was asked whether he favored the city manager. His answer was, yes, me. And Clyde was indeed a manager by private sector experience, by temperament. He relished the job. He worked hard at it. Dan Stewart has done the same thing. He's gotten right into it and he's managed very well. But I think both men realized that somebody needs to manage the city. And our view, which is now the view that Mayor Stewart is espousing, is that when the mayor must be A, full-time, and B, a competent multi-million-dollar business manager, it really limits the number of citizens in the community who are even qualified for the office. And when you look at civilian control and elected officials and the public controlling their government, I think it makes sense to have a mayor elected to set policy and general direction, and a manager hired to do the daily nuts and bolts of administrative things that you can find competent professionals to do, but you can't necessarily find competent professionals to run for. So I'll be supporting
Running for city manager.
I'll be supporting the proposal that the council wants to put on the ballot.
So have you voted on the Press Republican website again on it yet?
No, I'm staying away from web
Web
I'm
polls.
staying away from newspaper web polls. Let me just excuse me while I got.
Is he a George or a Chris?
He's a George Christian Jr.
But what do you follow?
Chris. So, you know what's really interesting here too, and I suppose that unless somebody in the neighborhood decides at the last minute to jump into this race, a 60-year trend is going to be broken at the end of this year. For 60 years, the Assemblyman from Clinton County has lived within a 5-block area in the city of Plattsburgh.
Huh.
Now we go back to Fitzpatrick in 1946, lived on Beacon Street. Then he was succeeded by Bob Feinberg, who lived on Court Street. And then he was succeeded by Louis Wolf, who lived on the corner of Grace and Hammond Lane.
Mhm.
Not Hammond Lane, Holland. And then Louis was succeeded by Andy Ryan, who lived on Cornelia Street, and then moved over to Holland and Grace. And then Andy was succeeded by myself, who lives on Morrison Avenue. So for 60 years, the assemblyman for this county has come from that one little 4 or 5 block area. Must be something in the water
I
over
have to
there.
convince the next one to move.
Maybe so.
Do you have any idea when the, boy, my brain is working well
It's
today.
too early for me.
Yeah, when the confirmation, will be discussed and
No,
go
well,
through?
as you know, the mayor's appointment is sitting in the
Right.
Senate now. There are a couple of other appointments of folks from the area. A SUNY trustee appointment is sitting in the Senate now. And it's no secret that the Senate has been holding up the governor's nominations until this whole budget veto spending issue is resolved. But if you look at the history of these things, the Senate, in the end, gets around to doing this, and I'm not anxious about that at all.
You think it'll come close to the end of the session?
Who knows? I don't have a crystal ball about that. That's in Senator
Hey, you're
Bruno's hands.
in.
That's in Senator Bruno's hands. I don't have a crystal ball about that, but
So even if they confirm you, you can stay in the assembly seat until the end of the session?
technically speaking, you have 30 days after Senate confirmation to take a position to.
Okay.
And as that Monday is the 22nd of May, and the end of the legislative session is the 22nd of June,
You should have no problem.
yeah, even if the Senate took it up on Monday, which I don't believe they're planning to do, that it wouldn't prohibit me from staying in office
And
until
it's not
the
likely
last bills are done.
And it's not likely they'll run late.
We have some pretty important bills that still have to be passed. We have a bill that is real important to West Shazy to create a new district for the Dodge Library, which had been a Beekmantown School District library, which is now going to be turned over to the West Shazy community, and they need legislation so that they can have a separate taxing jurisdiction within the town of Shazy that contributes only to that library. That bill has passed the Senate, and I have to pass it in the Assembly now. And we've got a bill that I have high hopes for, that we're calling Chris Pazer's bill, that would take any employee, any public employee in New York who's in the situation that Sergeant Pazer was in, called up to active duty, sent into combat, wounded in action in wartime, to the extent that he has to retire on disability, would, in that case, have the same disability retirement, 3/4 retirement with benefits for the family, that police officers historically have had. Last year, we tried to do a bill just for Sergeant Pazer. The Assembly traditionally does not do bills for a named individual in the state retirement system. So, not to be defeated, we went back to the drawing board and we wrote a bill that would apply to anyone in that situation. Not a named individual, but creating a new policy for anyone in that situation. And I think it's the right thing to do. Senator Larkin carried it in the Senate, and it passed the Senate last Monday. Now it's our job to convince the Assembly that, in this case, A, it's the right thing to do, and B, there's no reason not to do it. So in the next 6 weeks, that's going to be right there among the top 4 or 5 things that I have to do.
I have a question that has nothing to do with any of that, really.
You fulfilled your quota already.
I'm sorry.
All right, just slip it to Jennifer.
Just another thing just slipped into my mind. You're gonna save me a call, because I was gonna call the
Okay.
government center, I think. But the gas, the state is gonna cut the, 4 cents, roughly, probably
State
4
will-
cents.
Yeah, excuse me.
See what you
That's
get?
Your sister's here.
my sister.
So what is the county share on the gas tax?
3 3/4
That's
cents.
all it is?
3 3/4 cents $1.
Okay.
And if you talk about what the cap is saving,
Mhm.
that's predicated on a $3 gasoline. Now, we're a little over that, so it's, the state bill is probably gonna be saving 5 cents right now. But the county share in Clinton is 3 3/4, in Franklin, it's gonna go up to 4 on,
The county doesn't have to do that, though, they don't have
the
to.
county's enabled to do that.
Right.
And I would think that,
Yeah.
given the fact that the county passed a very strong resolution demanding that something be done to cut the price of gasoline, I think they've already kind of thrown their hat over the wall, and they're almost duty bound to follow it, but they do have that option.
Do they have an option of how much they wanna take, or does it have to be the 3? I mean, can they make it less? Can they just take a portion of their sales tax?
I don't have the answer to
Not
that.
sure.
What the county will do is, no, the county would have to cap it at $2 as we
Okay.
would.
Mhm.
So the county has the option to bring the gas tax down. I should be clear about this. I shouldn't, of all people, shouldn't be mixing up the words. The county has the option to bring the sales tax on gasoline down to what it would be 7.5 cents as a maximum, or leave it as it is now, which on a $3 gallon of gasoline would be about 11 3/4 cents.
When does the assembly reconvene?
Monday,
No, I mean, after their break in the summer,
January.
January, okay, so we're not going to be unrepresented before the elections, or,
That's correct.
I mean, we won't have a person here, you're not required to fill out the rest of the
Right.
term.
So what you're saying is you didn't do anything from June till January every year?
Well, that's a good question. I certainly think we did. The June to January portion of our legislative function is primarily in the district. We traditionally hold 4, 5, 6 public hearings. I'll go to town board meetings, city council meeting, spend the time getting back in touch with our almost 40 local governments, 3 county governments, and so forth. But in point of fact, the Constitution only requires members of the legislature to go to Albany, sit in the chamber, and cast votes. This entire additional function, taking care of constituent services, attending all these other meetings, being a local leader, serving in my case on the park appointing authority, and a lot of these other things that we do and have created a full-time job, are not the official constitutional job description. They've simply grown as legislators over the years have seen a need and have stepped in to fill it. It's a very good question, because it calls into to play the whole idea of whether we do or don't have a part-time legislature. Officially, it's a part-time legislature. The New York legislature is paid at a full-time rate, and we indeed work a full-time rate. In this assembly district, I have 4 people on staff year-round. 2 of them part-time, but they're year-round employees. I have another 1 in Albany during the legislative session, and another intern in Albany, and we usually have 4 or 5 interns here in the district office. That's about a $200,000 payroll, including the members' payroll. The job is comparable for a senator with a larger district, and I think the public expects us to do that. If you sit here and listen to the number of times the phone rings, look at the stack of mail that comes in every day. Certainly the demands on my time and the time of our staff is considerable. And I don't know who would do a lot of those functions if we didn't. So it's a full-time job, but officially we won't be unrepresented. In fact, we've made arrangements that our staff will continue to be here. So all of that ministerial constituent service work will continue to be done under the direction of the Assembly Minority Leader. I guess the main thing that you need an Assembly member for is to cast votes and be a listener in the district, so that next year when come to cast votes again, you have a good grounding in what the people are thinking. And by God, you don't get that by just reading the mail or answering the phone. You've got to be out in the communities. You got to be living in the communities, in the district, and you got to be able to soak that up. So I guarantee you that with a tough campaign ahead, whoever is elected will get all of that benefit during the campaign season. Whoever is elected will be fully grounded in what the people want. But to answer your question, Jennifer, when the session ends, unless there's a special session called, the district won't lack somebody to vote because the assembly won't be taking votes.
But as far as doing things for your constituents, you probably did as much or more during that June to January.
That's right.
So that part won't be happening. There'll be an office here.
And there'll be very, very good people who, you know, I got a lot of credit for helping people. And I certainly directed it all. But if I didn't have dedicated, hard-working people with good hearts and knowledge about how to do it, all that help wouldn't happen. And those people are still going to be on the job, answering the phones and stepping up to do that for the folks.
But somebody still has to decide whether you're going to do that or not. There's some people you get requests from that you deny. You know, you say,
No,
I'm not going to do
never.
that. But
Never.
you know, you don't just sit there being pulled by every person in the district. So who will be making that decision? The office manager or the assembly leader? Or
Oh, I expect the office manager will. And there's not many requests that can be met. The only reason you will decide not to do something is that you were completely tapped out. Everybody was going 100%, and you literally didn't have the time to do it. And in that case, you just do it tomorrow or the day later. There's really nothing that is turned away here. We've never turned anybody away. You try. Sometimes you can't succeed, but that doesn't mean you don't try. Ask any of those folks at the state agencies how many times we call, and no Senator Little's the same way. And they say, well, there's really nothing we can do, Assemblyman. And I say, well, why don't you take a look and try anyway? Like the railing on that bridge down in Osable Chasm. If we had just listened to DOT's first answer and said, okay, sorry, we can't do anything, that bridge would still have no railing and some other kid might get killed today. And that's the way we've always done business. No matter how impossible I thought something was, never stopped us from going to the agency and saying, can't you find a way to do this?
right, but right now this office, as of the end of June, won't have that clout
Oh,
of
yeah,
having an
they'll
active
be
assembly
doing
person though.
Well, I'd like to believe that the state agencies respond to the legitimate needs of the people, not just because it's an assembly member. And bear in mind that all of these folks who work for us have relationships with their counterparts in the agency. So when Denise calls her counterpart at the Department of Corrections in August, she's still going to have the same relationship with them that she does today. I don't think there's going to be much that doesn't get done. And you know what? I'm still going to be here to make that call if I have to. Just because I'm not drawing the paycheck or in office, if it comes to that, I'm still going to make that call to those people that I've known for 20 years. And if they haven't responded to my former staff members, they're going to hear from me.
So you'll still be doing your part. Now, looking at this parole board members list that we were handed, looks like the terms of office vary. Are they all 6 years? I see some of these are 7, 8, 10, 11.
They're all 6 years. What you're seeing there is some people have been reappointed, so their first date of confirmation may go back more than 6 years, and they may have been appointed to fill the remainder of someone's vacant term. That's very often the case I've found in these appointed boards, that some people don't serve their full terms. They serve, they may be deceased, they may get another job offer, they may leave for other reasons, and when they do, in mid-term, they're reappointed, and so you see a lot of these staggered terms here. But they're all 6-year terms.
Okay. Now,
And there's some, I think there are 2 vacancies on that list, and there are a couple others that are gonna become vacant on the 18th of June, which is when the new term from me starts.
this board, you said earlier, meets on a weekly basis, is that what you said?
Yep.
So where do you meet, Albany? Do you have to go to Albany, or?
If you go up to Clinton Correctional Facility and you go in the admin building, you take a right turn, you head down toward the lineup room. There's a room there off on the, I think it's on the right-hand side of that corridor where the parole board meets and holds their interviews. It's generally 3 members of the board, 2 or 3 members go out to different correctional facilities, and the inmates who are up for parole review come in for interviews at that time. And
So basically
that's where you go to the correctional facilities around the state. Sometimes, for instance, at Upstate, which is a maxi lockdown jail, the board doesn't go there. The inmates do their parole interviews by teleconference from a secure room over a television line.
Yeah.
But you're going to, the board goes to a different correctional facility every week.
It's amazing that somebody who would still be in that facility would be eligible for parole if they're so dangerous that you can't go there to talk to them. It's amazing, you know, that.
Well, no, it's true. It is amazing, but again, the sentences for so many crimes are 25 to life or 10 to 25, and after the sentencing, the classification gets done at intake into the system, and an inmate will be classified by the Department of Corrections as requiring incarceration in a jail like Upstate. Or the inmate will be classified because of misconduct as an inmate to be downgraded to go in there. That doesn't change their initial sentence or the fact that they're eligible for their right of parole review.
So does the entire board meet, or does just a 3-member panel?
Teams of 2 or 3, yeah. And they
Yeah.
disperse.
We have enough.
different weeks.
We have enough facilities in the area that would you just be going to the?
No.
You'll be going throughout the state.
To go to it.
So is this more travel than your assembly position?
Well, I've been traveling around the state since 1993 when I was appointed program chairman. So I still do a fair amount of travel now to Buffalo, Rochester, New York City. On paper, you probably would find that the parole board travels a little more. I talked to Tom Grant yesterday, who's been a member of the board for 2 years now. I didn't ask him how many miles he puts on the car, but I do about 60,000 miles a year now. It's conceivable that we could do a little more than that, but good thing I enjoy traveling.
Will you be introducing anything to increase the mileage allowed for parole board members?
The mileage is adjusted regularly by administrative action tied to the federal level, and so is by the way, so is the reimbursement for travel to different cities. We used to set our own in New York, and 10, 15 years ago, we tied all of our travel reimbursement to the federal level so that it goes up and down according to that.
So what the IRS allows is what the state.
Mileage right now, I think, is 44.5. When I first came into the assembly, mileage was 24 something.
This was a lot cheaper.
Gas was well, it was
It's up to
it was
44.
cheaper in the mid 80s. It was actually, in real dollar terms, gas was more expensive in 1973 than it is today, and it was about the same in 1981 in adjusted figures. So we're going through another cycle of what we saw in the early 80s, and I'm still an optimist about this. I mean, I know there's a lot of options. There's more efficient vehicles. First of all, we can buy more efficient vehicles, so some of it's within the control of the consumer. There's all kinds of alternative energy coming online. People are adjusting their buying habits, and I am one of those who still says that in a year, 2, 3 years, the real inflation-adjusted price of gasoline is going to settle back down again. I could be wrong, but it's gone through 3 cycles since 1970, and they seem to go like this, and we're at this. Now, there's no reason why we won't go down any more than we might go up. Let's just work hard at it and see.
Well, Chris, I have one last question, and don't hit me because you're in hitting range with this one. Now that you're not going to be in the assembly race, and we now have one Republican candidate, are you going to be helping and supporting the Republican candidate for assembly?
I certainly am. I am supporting the Republican candidate just as strongly as she's supported me over the years.
Turned that one around, didn't you?
Yeah, you sure did.
Okay, you were,
Now let's see what Janet says about that.
No, I will be supporting Mitch, of course.
Okay.
I would always support the Republican nominee, despite what they've said. To the contrary, it's not true. They'd like to believe I hadn't, as it gives them an excuse to rail against me. But look, everybody has squabbles inside a family, and
Yes.
when the family goes out. Interesting point, though. Andy Brockway has given me bigger and more recent campaign contributions than Janet Dupree.
Really? Well, I have got to get back.
you're kind of in the judiciary part of government. I know
Yeah.
judges can't actively campaign for other candidates.
Right.
Does this handcuff you at all being in the
Sorry.
parole?
The only thing,
I knew
yes,
that.
2 things you can't do.
Yeah.
You can't hold a public office or a party office. So I have to resign the assembly, and I have to resign my position as Republican State Committeeman. And you can't be an employee of a campaign or a political party, which I'm not anyway. But there's no restriction, as there is with judges, from making campaign contributions. There's no restriction from working as a volunteer on a campaign or being an unpaid advisor to a campaign.
So you can volunteer for Bill Weld's campaign?
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, we all have time off, and that's when we do our volunteer activities. And I intend to do as much of that as I can, because I think it's important to continue the Republican policies that have changed the state over the last 12 years. I don't think this is a matter of whether Elliot Spitzer has more money or Bill Weld has a better personality. I don't think it's really even a matter of whether Elliot Spitzer or Bill Weld is the better lawyer. By the
You're
way,
right.
Weld certainly has the better track record. It's a matter of what the policies are that affect the people of New York. Are we going to have higher taxes? Are we going to have lower taxes? Weld is a tax cutter, proved it. 19 times in Massachusetts, never raised a tax a single time. Vetoed tax increases sent to him by the legislature. Spitzer has not said he would cut taxes. In fact, he's supported Democrats who raise taxes. Right there, that's just one thing that the people of New York have to choose. And they're going to have a choice, Calvin, between 2 completely qualified men. I'm not here saying Elliot Spitzer's not qualified. But Weld is equally, and in my opinion, more well qualified. So come November, all of this, well, we don't know this guy, we know this guy has more money, this guy doesn't have this money, is going to just even out. And the voters are going to have a choice, a very clear choice, between somebody who wants to cut taxes and cap the growth of government spending, cap the growth of property taxes, and somebody who, at this point, hasn't said he does. And given that choice, the people have proved time and time again that they defy the pundits, they defy the early polls. George Pataki, 12 years ago this spring, had about 10% favorable. Yet he won.
He still does.
It goes around, comes around.
Thanks, guys.
Take care,
Thanks,
Pat.
Pat.
What happens to Republican campaign funds that have been raised to this date? Because you've been campaigning up until now, haven't
Mhm.
you? What happens to those
Oh, you
funds?
mean my personal campaign funds?
Yes.
They remain in my personal campaign account. And, you know, just off the record, there are
Restricted from making campaign contributions, you can contribute that to other campaigns, et cetera, whatever.
In fact, I'm about to write $1,000 check to Bill Weld.
I thought you were gonna say to us, no. The media fund. No, okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
So we're gonna be here.
Fourier, Turner. Nice driving layup. 25-17 with 4:05 left in the third quarter. Deflected out of bounds off Northeastern. 23 is out. Woodrick is out. 24 is in for South Jefferson. Basket good. She'll try to complete the three-point play. Ten-point lead for South Jefferson. Lindsay Niles at the line. Completes a three-point play. 11-point lead for South Jefferson. Burgess harassing Rachel Courier all the way. Courtney Courier was a little frustrated in the middle there. Took a shot too far into the rim. Looks like she was bumped and pushed quite a bit. No foul. Blocked out of bounds by Courtney Courier. 3:08 left in the third quarter. Beat the buzzer, 13-point lead. They're double teaming Courtney Courier every time she's in the charge. This game has reached a critical point for Northeastern. They're down by 13, and South Jefferson has the ball. They got to get a stop here and score on the other end. They have to get that ball to Courtney Courier. Critical that they get a stop right now. Long three-pointer off the top of the basket, the backboard, excuse me. Rachel Courier has the ball in the inbound up to Fourier. And Courtney Courier, three-pointer from the corner, misses. Stolen away. .144 left in the third quarter. Rachel Courier loses the ball. Jump. Possession arrow, South Jefferson.